Today we're going to talk all about Harleysville, Pennsylvania, which is a town northeast of Philadelphia, located in Montgomery County, which is actually the largest county that makes up the Philadelphia suburbs. Harleysville is an area that I receive a lot of emails about from people like you who watch this channel. There are so many great things to say about Harleysville. It's an amazing location. It has amazing school districts. It's charming. It's surrounded by amazing towns, but there are certainly some things that you should know that are not so great about living in Harleysville. Hi there, I'm Corey Benhart. I'm a local realtor here in the Philadelphia metro area. I specialize in helping people just like you make the move and buy their perfect Pennsylvania home. All of my contact information is below, and let's get started. The first thing that we need to talk about is all of the development that is happening in Harleysville. Not too long ago, Harleysville was a major farm town with very little to do. The farms were acres and acres apart from each other, and it was a very small, private, and quiet town. So in Harleysville, over the past 10, 20, 30 plus years, there have been a couple of new neighborhoods here and there, but nothing like what we have seen since 2020. I think developers saw the low cost of living mixed with tons of open acreage, and that drew them to start building more and more in Harleysville. The development was and still is very attractive to some home buyers because you could buy a brand new home for a relatively low price with a pretty large plot of land. I specifically think that development in Harleysville just completely took off in 2020 because a lot of people were looking to move out of the cities and out of the more congested towns into a town that's wide open with plenty of space and privacy. That drew a lot of people to Harleysville over the past couple of years. Due to all the new homes that have been built and are currently being built, it's starting to change from a quiet farm town to a town with tons of development and brand new people moving into Harleysville, which obviously could be a good or bad thing depending on your personal opinion. So since there's tons of new residents and new homes coming to Harleysville, that obviously means that the overall cost of living in Harleysville is slowly rising. I definitely have not seen a huge spike in increase for the cost of living in Harleysville, which is great considering all of the new development, but I would say over the years, it will certainly increase. Most of the longtime residents are pretty upset about all of the new neighborhoods being built. So if you're looking for a town that isn't quickly developing and you would prefer to live in a small, quiet farm town, Harleysville might not be the best town for you. Although there are still plenty of farms and wide open space in Harleysville, I don't want you to think that every single farm is being built and nothing like that at all. There's still plenty of wide open acreage, but over the next maybe 5-10 years, that could certainly change. In my opinion, I certainly don't see Harleysville ever turning completely away from being sort of a farm town. The second not so great thing about living in Harleysville is the lack of the downtown feel and just overall walkability. You might be thinking, well, that's great. Since there's tons of new homes coming in, that must mean that they're developing kind of a small downtown feel with tons of new businesses. And unfortunately, that's just not the case yet. Harleysville is a pretty community-based town, but when it comes to the downtown area and walkability and shops, dining, restaurants, all of that stuff, Harleysville just isn't there yet. Another reason why Harleysville might not be the best town for you is the lack of restaurant options. Besides the typical fast food, pizza, and places like that, if you love to go out and eat and you consider yourself a foodie and you love to try all different cultures of foods and all different new restaurants and stuff like that, Harleysville isn't really there or even close to being there yet. But the good thing is Harleysville is surrounded by some amazing towns. So if you don't mind traveling a little bit out of Harleysville, you could have just about every type of cuisine and restaurant that you could really imagine. Harleysville isn't far from towns with so many different restaurants. Some of those towns that Harleysville is very close to that has all of those different restaurants and a great nightlife option is Lansdale, Doylestown, Souderton, etc. So the next reason why you might not want to make Harleysville your home is because of the location. I know we already mentioned that there are some great towns surrounding Harleysville, but if you need to travel to one of the major cities, it'll be a little bit further of a commute due to Harleysville being further out than some of the other towns in Montgomery County and in the overall Philadelphia suburbs. Harleysville is around an hour and 15-minute commute to Center City, Philadelphia, and right around 2 hours and 10 minutes or so to New York City. I've helped many people move from these major cities to Harleysville and the very close immediate area surrounding. All of these clients are completely okay with the long commute because they work from home and they really only need to visit these two major cities when they're going to visit family or friends or just want a long weekend. The long commute didn't really matter to them because they wanted a pretty big single family home with a lot of land for a somewhat affordable price, and that's exactly what Harleysville can get you. So since Harleysville is a somewhat small farm town, there aren't really many job opportunities within the town of Harleysville. So if you were hoping for a very short commute or a job that you could walk to, Harleysville might not be the best place for you. There are plenty of great job opportunities in Philadelphia, but also some of the other major suburban towns as well. So if you're okay with driving a little over an hour, it's very likely that you could find a job in the city. If you're moving here because you're being relocated, then you wouldn't have to worry about finding a job or those employees that can work from home. Don't worry about commute time or anything like that at all. So unfortunately, another reason why you might not want to make Harleysville your new home is if you're looking for a town with tons of urban amenities, which unfortunately Harleysville just doesn't have. If you're used to living in a big city or a very populated area, you might be pretty shocked if you were to move to Harleysville because there's really not that much to do. If you're going to move to Harleysville, I would highly recommend that you're outdoorsy and love nature. I would still consider Harleysville a farm town with wide open rolling hills, tons of farmland, and spread out grassy areas all throughout the town. With a landscape like that, there are tons of wide open areas full of nature. So if you want a place that has tons of people, buildings, restaurants, walkability, stuff like that, Harleysville probably isn't for you. But if you consider yourself very outdoorsy and you love nature and hiking and walking and biking and all of those amazing things outdoors, you will absolutely love Harleysville. So along with the lack of urban amenities and the overall landscape of Harleysville, we should also mention the wildlife. I recently had a client that was moving from a major city, and she said she doesn't want to live anywhere with a lot of wildlife because she grew up in the city, she's only ever lived in the city, and she's kind of scared of wildlife. She's never really experienced it before. If you feel the same way that she did about wildlife, then Harleysville might not be the best place for you. It's very, very common to see tons of deer, foxes, of course squirrels, raccoons, etc. You might actually even hear some coyotes late at night. They typically don't come up to houses or cars or really anything like that, but it's very likely to walk your dog at night and hear some out in the distance. Speaking of dogs, if you have some and you buy a house with a big yard, I would highly recommend fencing your yard if possible to try to keep the wildlife out of your yard if you were to worry about that type of thing with your dog. So what do you think? Is Harleysville for you? If not, I would love to help you find the perfect town that fits exactly what you're looking for. All of my contact information is below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.